everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make a card using layered strips of scalloped paper, and then we'll cut them into hearts. So you need a variety of colors of cardstock and a piece of white daisy, and then I'm using the stitched hearts thin cuts, but you could use the regular hearts. And then I'm using an older retired scalloped thin cut, and there's another one in the bundle of different edge cuts, or you could use a punch, or you could use a Cricut cut. So there's a variety of options. So I'm going to use this scalloped thin cut for this card. So you need your card to be about 6 inches wide, so it'll get through your big shot. And then I'm just taking my thin cut and running it on through and getting a strip. And then I'm going to flip over my paper because the thin cut kind of makes an impression and you can tell which is the right side up when you look at it. So I'm flipping the card over, and I'm going to use the light side of sapphire also. So with all of my cardstock colors, I'm using the dark side of the paper and also the light side. So this is a piece that's a little bit larger than 6 inches, so I'm trimming off a little smidge off the edge so it'll fit through properly. So this is Lagoon. That's the regular dark side of Lagoon. And then I'm going to flip it over and use the light side. So I'm not going to keep everything in the video, but I did this with all of the colors that we'll be using today. Okay, so now I have all my scallop strips, and I'm just kind of putting them in sections of dark side, light side, keep all the colors together so that when I start layering, there will be some order to it. So now you just take a piece of white daisy, and this is a little bit wider than 6 inches, and you put a whole bunch of really good sticky adhesive on it. And be generous because you want these scallops to stick. So I'm starting with, I'm going to show you all of this just so you see the order of the colors that I'm using the dark side of sapphire and then the light side of sapphire. And when you put them down, stagger them so that the point is over, you'll see a point over the circle, and then you stagger them back so that they're not circle, 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 if that makes sense. So you want them to stagger on up. They kind of look like mermaid scales, fish scales. I don't know. They look really cool. So you want your point to be over the round, and then you go back. So you go back and forth with your staggering of placement, and I'm just reinforcing that adhesive stick with my bone folder, make sure everything sticks down properly. So I use sapphire, dark side of sapphire, light side of sapphire, dark side of Lagoon, light side of Lagoon, dark side of mint, light side of mint, dark side of evergreen, light side of evergreen, dark side of green apple, light side of green apple, dark side of saffron, light side of saffron, dark side of lemonade, light side of lemonade, dark side of peach. Nope, this is where I went off the grid. I did the light side of peach first, and then the dark side of peach. And then I'm using the light side of smoothie and the dark side of smoothie, and then the light side of candy apple and the dark side of candy apple. So there I have all my rainbow colors down, and then I'm just going to trim off the excess. Okay, so now we're ready to cut them, cut hearts out of this paper we made. So I'm just kind of positioning my heart and seeing where I want it to be on there and where I want to cut it out. And I'll bring my Big Shot back in and I'm going to run it through. And then I found out there's a lot of layers of cardstock here, so you need to run this guy through like 2-3 times just to make sure it cuts. And then sometimes you might even find that you need to shim your sandwich, which means just take an extra piece of cardstock and put it on top to run it through to add extra pressure. So you know when you start running it through if you've got enough pressure going on, so just kind of by feel. So I'm going to show cutting out a few of these different sizes. A couple of the large ones, and then I'll do a medium, and then I'll do small. So I'm trying to maximize my use of this piece of paper we made. And when you cut them, make sure that you don't go too close to the edge. See how I'm kind of positioning them in from the side, because if you get them too close to the edge, then you get a wonky edge that cuts off with the scallops. So you want to make sure you get the whole thing in there. And I'm going to put my little one in there, try to use that little spot. Okay, so now I've got all my hearts cut out, so let's start building a card. I'm using the mix-in papers from the current catalog, and I'm just kind of positioning the hearts just to make sure that I want to use that mix-in paper. And then I'm bringing in a piece of the floral cardstock from Blue Skies, and I'm going to make this as the base of my card. So it's an A2 size card, so I'm cutting it at 5.5 by 4.25. And then I felt like I needed to have a border around that mix-in piece because it wasn't popping quite enough. So I'm bringing in another piece to layer in, and that's sapphire. And then I'm going to cut my mix-in paper that I'm going to layer the hearts on. And I felt like I was covering up a little too much of that Blue Skies paper, so I decided to use just a 1/16 of an inch border of sapphire. I just needed a little something around that mix-in paper. Okay, so now I've got that started, and I'm bringing in my card base. I'm going to do a side fold, A2. So I'm going to start layering, and then I was looking at the back side of that Blue Skies paper and going, I kind of like that too. So you'll see a card that I make at the end. I'll have some photos of a card using that other side and a different mix-in paper. But we'll get this one done first. So I'm bringing all my layers in, and then I felt like I needed to pop that panel. So I brought some craft foam in, and I've cut it just a little bit smaller than that panel. And I'm going to attach that with some white Tombow glue. And then I'll set a block on it just to get it to sit up flat. Make sure it's straight. Okay, now we're ready to start attaching our hearts to the card, or at least figuring out what's going to go on the front. So I'm bringing in some sentiments here. This is from the Operation Smile stamp set, and this one says Sending Hugs. And I'm just kind of figuring out what I want on the front of my card there. Then I'm going to use some of those little tiny hearts too that are on that set to kind of make some embellishment clusters. But we'll get our sentiment on there first. So I'm stamping this with black ink. And I'm stamping that directly to that mix-in paper. And then I felt like it needed a little more emphasis, and so I've got a couple of swirl lines. There's one on the Stamp of the Month set, and then ultimately I decided that this one from the Hummingbird set, it fit the space a little bit better. Just needed a little extra something under that Sending Hugs. So it's a new stamp, so I needed to season it, and I'm stamping it off on some scratch paper before I actually put it down on my project. And we'll get that stamped down. Okay. Now I'm picking out some little hearts. Wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to scatter around there, but ultimately I decided on some solid hearts and then some line drawn hearts. I started out putting 2 of them on one block, but you'll see. And those were new, so I needed to season them. You guys use those tiny little stamps that come with your stamp sets. I know we focus on the larger images, the wow images from the sets, but there's lots of really cool little stars and paint splotches and hearts and dots and other really cool things that you can make little embellishment clusters out of. So I'm bringing in some colors that are the same as the cardstock that are in the hearts. So I started with Pixie, and then I decided that having 2 stamps on that block wasn't going to work, so I brought in another block, and I'm just doing 1 heart per stamp per block. So that's Candy Apple. And then I'm going to go back to Pixie. And thought I was going to use Lagoon, but then I decided on Saffron. And another little heart. Another size. And then Green Apple. All right, we're getting there. Okay, so now I'm going to attach my hearts to the card front with some thin foam tape. I'll get those all taped down. And this time I'm keeping it in the video. It's a little tedious, but you can see what goes into getting all those set up to put on the front of the card. And this foam tape, you can tear it if you want to. I usually wind up using scissors just because when you go to tear it, it kind of stretches and it stretches out of shape. So I think it's easier to cut it with scissors, but once in a while I get in a hurry and I just go ahead and tear it. And that's okay. All right, so now we have all our hearts on the front of the card. And this is what it looks like so far. And I just felt like it needed a little something more to fill in those spaces up towards the 2 smaller hearts at the top of the card to kind of draw your eye. So I got some sparkles. These are the silver glitter gems and bitty sparkles. So I'm going to scatter some more of those around to kind of go from between all the different hearts. All right, now I like it. So that's my card. And then I'll have some pictures of the next card that I made in the same design. That's the first one, and then this is the second one with blue skies and mix-ins. So I appreciate you watching my video today. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, please hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. I'll make a list of supplies in this description below. And thanks for watching.